Hello, welcome to Meet the Author, sponsored by Author Event Network in partnership with Bremerton Public Access Television. I'm your host, Guy Morris. Author Event Network is a nonprofit association of local authors who sign books at local festivals, fairs, and events. Our guest today is Brianna Caplan Sayres. Hi, Brianna. How are you doing?
Great. Hi, Guy.
I'm so glad to have you here. I've been wanting to interview you for a long time. You're one of my favorite authors in the group.
You're one of my favorite authors, too.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, we write very different genres. You write children's books. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to become an author.
I've wanted to be an author since I was in second grade, and they chose me to go to the Young Authors Festival, which they have somewhere around here, right in this area. I think in Kitsap it might have been. And I went to the Young Authors Festival, and I discovered that an author was something you could be. And in the fourth grade yearbook, I wrote, I want to be an author and I want to write books with my dad. And my dad has written books. I've written books. We've tried to write a short story together, but I've wanted to be an author for a very long time. So.
That's amazing to have a heritage with the father as an author as well. I think in second grade I was trying to decide between cowboy and Indian. My ambitions weren't very high at that point. Now you've also become a publisher in addition to an author. What was that decision like? What really kind of prompted you to make that leap to being creator, to being manager of others' creations?
So I'm still an author, and I still do my books through that I'm an author of, but I realized I had this vision for what I wanted to see in Jewish children's books, which I realize is a very specific niche, and it's a niche I know a lot about, and I felt that I was very qualified for and had a lot of ideas about. And so one day this mission statement just started pouring out of me of what I wanted to see in a Jewish children's book publisher, which I eventually named Intergalactic Afikomen. And our goal is to create a galaxy that is bursting with Jewish joy. And I'm actually the CGO, Chief Galactic Officer, and I have a lot of fun. I go for books that are in the Intergalactic Afikomen. I realized I wanted to see more Jewish fantasy, more zany, really zany, not just a little bit funny, but I wrote a book, Asteroid Goldberg, Passover in Outer Space, and Asteroid actually travels to outer space and gets stuck in outer space for Passover, and her parents have not a clue what to do, but Asteroid is a creative and mighty young Jewish girl, and Jupiter's moons become her matzo balls, the Big Dipper becomes her ladle, and she gets her horseradish from Jupiter's red spot. So I really wanted out the top, but I also wanted I realized also just books that are, as I said, Jewish joy. And so our book, She is a Mensch, that's up here, Jewish Women Who Rock the World. I'm very, very honored that this book by Rochelle Burke and Alana Baruch, a mother-daughter author team, I'm the proud editor. When I'm not the author, I'm the proud editor and art director. And this book has been picked as a pick of the day on mightygirl.com several times.
Wonderful.
And so we are just very honored that our books are getting out there and filling a need for joyfully Jewish books.
Well, I know that when we get to the booth, there's always a lot of activity around. It's almost like the oxygen gets sucked up around all of these amazing children's books and all of the funny conversations that are coming from all of the innuendos and everything else and the words. And now, what does Afikomen mean?
That's a really good question, because our target market sort of laughs at the name of the company, Intergalactic Afikomen. And Afikomen is a matzah, that flat cracker that Jewish people eat on Passover. But the Afikomen it's split in half and it's hidden on Passover. So the kids love finding the Afikomen.
Okay.
And so it's interesting because in my books with Random House, this series I have about where do diggers sleep at night, well, when there are things hidden in a book, and this book is really these books are really fun. Christian Slade, by the way, all these books have amazing illustrators. I forgot to say for She's a Mensch, we've got illustrator Ariel Trank, and I want to give credit to all my amazing authors and illustrators I'm lucky enough to work with. And I am so blessed that Christian Slade illustrates this series, and he hides a little mouse on each page. And traditionally in children's books, when you hide a little something on each page, it's called an Easter egg. But of course, since I run a Jewish children's book publisher, I like to call the ones in my Jewish books an Afikomen. We have a little hidden treat.
God, so it's the hidden treat. That's interesting. So tell us a little bit about the themes of your books that you like to have. I know that you have some different themes, obviously some of the Jewish traditions, but you have some other themes. I know you had some like vehicle themes and truck themes. And tell us about some of your themes of your books.
Well, some of the themes that I really love, well, big thing running through my books is, yes, people do see a truck and think of me because my son, when he was 2 years old, said to me, that book over there, Where Do Diggers Sleep at Night? My son, when he was little and loved trucks, said to me, Mommy, where do dump trucks sleep at night? And I knew that I had to try to answer his question as a good mommy. And I knew I had to try and write that book. And I wrote that book, and that turned into a series, a best-selling series with Random House with more than 1 million copies in print. So I'm very excited and honored. And so I have vehicles as a big topic. For themes, I was thinking about my themes because I try not to write. I know I write children's books, and people think that children's books have to have a message. I do not think children's books have to have a message. In fact, I'm working on a course for people who want to learn to write children's books, and so I don't write books with a message, but I realize sometimes after I've written the book what the themes are that I've included in it. I realize that humor is a big theme that runs throughout, as I said, zany books. I really realize that creativity and the power of creativity is something that I like to talk about. And I realize that theme of my company, joy, and in my joy in all my books. I really write for my 7-year-old self, for little Brianna, who just loved to read books and was such a geek and such a bookworm that I wanted to get my driver's license so I could drive to the library. So that's me, and I love books with a passion, and I love books that are filled with joy, and so that's a big theme in everything I write.
So it sounds like there's a lot of your personal experience that's kind of going into kind of creating that sense of joy and zaniness and themes in the books. Do you have any personal experiences that actually went into one of your books?
You know what? It's interesting because my best-selling book is about trucks that go to bed at night. So there is the personal experience of putting my own children to bed. I eventually discovered that the trucks would go to bed like boys and girls go to bed. So they brush their teeth. The monster truck brushes his teeth, and their mommies and daddies put them to bed. The crane, I think, gets rocked to sleep. There's that experience of being a parent. But mostly I feel like every one of my books, the big experience I put in there is when I was a child, a lot of the Jewish children's books, it used to feel like they were all sort of set in the shtetl or the Lower East Side. And I grew up in Bellevue, Washington, Seattle and Bellevue, Washington, and I grew up, on a soccer team. I was the worst one on the soccer team, but and I didn't have a mama and a papa or a bubby. My Ashkenazic grandmother, my Eastern European grandmother, all my grandparents were born in Seattle, Washington, or Portland, Oregon. So I wanted to show modern Jewish kids. I wanted to show, so that's the part of my experience I bring into it, that it's not that I want people to see how fun being Jewish can be, and I had fun being Jewish. I can't wait. There's a Jewish holiday tonight, and I can't wait for tomorrow night to be singing and dancing. So I wanted to bring in that fun and that joy. Excellent. And actually, I Am Hava has Ali Raisman. It's the true story of the world's most famous Jewish song, Hava Nagila. It got a starred review from Kirkus. Kirkus can be very challenging to get even a nice review from, so to get a star from Kirkus was very exciting. And when this book, written by Frida Lefkowitz and illustrated by renowned Indian-American Jewish artist Siona Benjamin, who's in museums around the world. I tell people it's the most affordable you'll ever be able to get Siona Benjamin's artwork is the $19.99 for this book. But one of the things I fell in love with is Hava Nagila started as a wordless melody in Ukraine, and she went straight through to the Olympics with Ali Raisman and beyond. And so when you see Ali Raisman at the Olympics dancing to Hava Nagila, well, that inspired my own oldest son to get more serious about gymnastics when he was a kid. He doesn't do it anymore, but he really liked it. And in fact, this book also has a little bit of my personal experience. I don't know if it's able to show this, but this book actually, if you look inside, we needed a child in a pediatric walker. And this is my son, who's now just had his bar mitzvah, but he's in there. So he's used to and loves being in books. So
wonderful.
That's a little bit of my personal experience that literally went into a book.
That's excellent. Now, do you have any new books coming out? And if so, what are they titled?
So as people who are watching this probably get, I have this balance between books I've authored and books I've edited. So for books I've authored, my new book that's coming out, I have a new book that will be coming out with Holiday House called Why Did the Chicken Cross the Road? A Hard-Boiled Mystery. And so I go zany with all my books, fun and zany. And I'm excited because, Guy, you said in the beginning that we write very different types of books. But in fact, I love to read mysteries and thrillers. And I've never managed to write a mystery. I tried my one about the dinosaur beauty pageant was originally called Mystery at the Miss Dinosaur Pageant, but it became Tiarasaurus Rex, and the mystery didn't stand out as much in it. But in Why Did the Chicken Cross the Road, I actually have an inspector and a mystery. It's a very child-friendly mystery, but I do have that. So that's my newest one. And then in my series, the newest one, well, there's Diggers Love Their Mommies has come out. Diggers Love Their Daddies will be coming out soon. And my editor, it's so nice to have an editor who asks me to write books. And my editor has asked me to write Where Do Race Cars Sleep at Night? So those are new ones coming down the turnpike, I guess, to use my vehicle metaphor. For books I've edited that are coming out, I'm excited to show this one, which is a very interesting Hanukkah book. And you might wonder when I say Hanukkah book when you look at the cover, but it is called Oi Santa, or There's a Latka to Learn About Hanukkah. And Ali Overstreet writes to Santa and says, please don't come to my house. I don't celebrate Christmas. And this book was inspired by the author, Joyce Schrieben, and there's an amazing illustrator, Gila van Meisner. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know if I've ever pronounced Gila's last name. But Joyce's son, when he was little, wrote a letter in childish invented spelling to Santa Claus that said that, and we actually have that original letter in the back of the book, although Joyce's son is now much older. And basically Santa and Ollie learn about each other's holidays. So it ends up being a book about mutual respect and also the idea that not everybody celebrates Christmas, and Jewish children and children of other faiths that don't celebrate Christmas have their own wonderful traditions, and we can all have fun with our own wonderful traditions. So it's a beautiful book about mutual respect and understanding, and Santa does have a lot of misconceptions about Hanukkah that Ali teaches him a little bit more about Hanukkah. So it's a great book.
Love that. I love that the mutual respect theme. I love that the multicultural kind of thing. That's really kind of funny. And as you say, the humor kind of comes out. The Oi Santa is, that's I got to say that alone made me chuckle. and I get that from a lot of your books. Sort of the kitschy. I almost feel like Mel Brooks is going to pop out of one of them somewhere.
My lips are sealed, but you just said something that I will be having an announcement about later.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that. What do you love most about being an author, and how is that different from being an editor-publisher?
I love them both, but I always knew I wanted to be an author. I loved writing, although sometimes I love having written. I don't know if you know, you want the book to be done. There's a lot of hard work to get the book done, and I've written a blog post for my old critique group's blog. How many times can you revise 500 words? I've come to love revision. I've come to love getting those words to be just perfect, or as perfect as I know how to make them. I do my best, and I love writing the book and bringing something wildly creative into the world that only I could bring into the world. I also love doing author visits, going to schools and talking to children. I love being part of Author Event Network and getting to talk to people at festivals and getting to meet readers. I really love it. And then editor, publisher, the founder of a publishing company, that was never something I envisioned. But when I had that vision I described earlier, I discovered I really love when I put out the all-call for submissions and said, here's my vision of joyfully Jewish children's books that are filled with fun and zaniness and positivity and all these things that I wanted to see. I didn't know who was going to answer my call. And I've been so honored that these incredible authors and illustrators, actually it's authors who answer my call, and then I make a match and find the illustrators that are perfect to go with it. But these authors had these incredibly funny, zany, joyful books that I was so excited to read, and then to find the perfect illustrator and the perfect designer, and the illustrator, the designer, and I work on something that I never get to work on as a picture book author, because this is something most people don't understand, but they all think because I'm a picture book author of Where to Dig or Sleep at Night, and my other books, a family friend saw that book and said, Brianna, I want you to give me art lessons. And I had to explain to her, I'm not the illustrator. You want art lessons from Christian Slade, a wonderful former Disney animator who lives in Florida. If it was up to me, my books would all be filled with stick figures.
Yeah.
But as an editor and a publisher, as the publisher, I then find that perfect illustrator for each book. And it was so exciting to find Gila to illustrate Joyce's amazing emails, and to find each one of these, and to find that Siona could do this. And each one of these, it had to be the perfect illustrator to bring that book to life. And as a picture book author, this is also something interesting that people don't know. I only write 50% of my books. And I don't mean I only write 50% of the text, but a good picture book, you write your part, and then you want to leave space for the illustrator to bring it, to fill it up, to surprise the reader, because you know how much kids love looking in the books and finding what they can find. And so sometimes with my books, I will encourage an illustrator to do a wordless spread now that when I'm part art director for some of these books, and working with the amazing designers that I work with all over the world. I mean, I'm just blessed.
You know, the whole concept of art, I mean, I write thrillers, and I write a lot of words, and there's no room for pictures, although I sometimes wish there were.
Yeah.
But the whole concept of art is interesting. Have you considered or thought about using AI to basically do children's illustrations?
Definitely not. Definitely not. That is a very hot topic, and very much I respect authors, I respect illustrators, and those illustrations, they're craftspeople, as we discussed in our previous interview, and I do not want to have AI doing that. I also don't think AI is capable of doing it at the level, but you know far more about AI than I do. But I do not want this done with AI. I love the every bit that these illustrators bring to it. As I said, they are 50% creators, and sometimes it's only the author's name that gets mentioned. I mentioned my book earlier, Asteroid Goldberg, Passover in Outer Space. I have to mention Meryl Rainey, the incredible illustrator who brought that book to life. Yeah. Every one of these, there's an illustrator, and just like I wouldn't want AI to try and reproduce our books and to do that, I respect those illustrators. So
I'm glad to hear you say that. I mean, I many of my books are on AI. I understand the technology, but I would never want to use AI to write my book, because it simply couldn't do what I can do, because it's redundant. It's going to basically kind of regurgitate what's already out there. Yeah. And there's a creativity, there's a heart and a soul, I think, that goes into especially children's illustrations, because each one of them is different. Each one of them has a different sense of whimsy, a different sense of fun, and I think you've been able to really kind of find those great illustrators and personalize that.
I love it, and my cat is actually in this book. My cat Stormy is Santa's cat, and the dog. But we when we talk, and you know, the creative people, we bounce ideas off each other, and things come. And the illustrators, oh my goodness, I just. I mean, I'm lucky to work with a local illustrator, Craig Orbach, who illustrated one of Rochelle's future, one of her other books now, Space Torah, and they have one called Passover in Everest coming out, and then another one that I've just hot off the presses, got the manuscript into me yesterday, these exciting Jewish adventures. And Rochelle and Craig, they're incredible team, and I'm just excited to say his name because he actually lives in the Pacific Northwest, like I do, and a lot of these people are not in the Pacific Northwest, but I'm so thrilled to work with people all over the world, and how technology does allow us to do that I have Zoom meetings with, I mean, this illustrator, she is in Germany, and the designer for this book was in Spain, so it does make time zone issues a little bit challenging, but it allows me to get the absolute best people I can possibly find.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. My cover designer's out of Cardiff, England, and I don't know that I've found anybody locally who can do the great job that he's done at making, and you've seen it. I mean, people will walk by the booth and they'll come up just because the covers themselves will pull people in.
Your covers are incredible, Guy, and I love being next to you in the booth. I love it.
And likewise, because you have just this great energy and positive energy, and you're always pulling people in. And while the mothers are looking at the children's books, I'm often looking at the dad saying, "Yeah, what about you?"
Well, that's what I love.
Does Daddy get some toys, some books too, or Well, so what's your next big adventure? You've got these publishing companies, you've got these themes. You're so busy. You're talking about putting out apps and doing training and teaching people how to write books. Well, is there anything that you're not doing?
Well, I would say my next big adventure is I have recorded an entire course that is going to help people, because people come up to me all the time and say, my big dream, oh, can you believe it? I want to write a children's book. How do you do that? And then they say to me, oh, I need to find an illustrator. And of course, anybody who's watching this, I'll tell you, surprise, surprise, you don't need to find an illustrator if you're going to be traditionally published. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be self-published, you do need to find an illustrator. So my book talks about all those choices. Mm-hmm. My course that I'm working on. And so I've recorded the entire course, but I need to finish editing it and get it out there, because I know there are so many people who want to learn how to write, children's books. And I know when I was first getting started, I would have wanted to learn from me, somebody who's a best-selling children's book author, mm-hmm. and has this knowledge and has thought passionately about it as both an author, as an editor, as a publisher, even working with the art side of it.
Since the second grade.
Well, no, the dream since the second grade. So I'm excited to share that with people. So finishing up that course is my next big thing, and trying to find more time to write, because I will say, if you want to have time to write your books, don't necessarily decide to form your own publishing company and edit other people's books, because it does make it hard to balance everything else and be mom.
and be mom. Is there anything else that you would want your readers to know about what's coming up, or the best books, and anything that's coming up in the holidays that I know that might not be AEN, but I know you're very involved in a lot of different community aspects?
I think I'm really excited to get Jewish Joy out there. I'm excited. Let me just tell you the upcoming for the spring from Intergalactic Afikomen. I want you to know I mentioned that book, Passover on Everest. Mm-hmm. It is true, the true real life story of a mother-daughter team who climbed Everest. They climbed all the peaks, all the biggest peaks in the world, and they celebrated Passover on top of Mount Everest. So we're very excited about our exciting Jewish adventures.
Now, you're going to start a Jewish adventure book series on that, based on that, or understanding?
There are 3 books that seem to go together. There's mm-hmm. one called Space Torah about astronaut Jeffrey Hoffman, mm-hmm. who actually took a Torah into space. He also spun a dreidel in space. Okay. And then he brought it back, didn't tell anybody about it for many years afterwards. There's been a documentary written about it by Rachel Raz, and Rochelle Burke wrote about it, illustrated by Craig Orbach. So there's that book. Then there's Passover on Everest, and then there's a 3rd book that also is a Jewish adventure. So that's very exciting. And then I guess I want to just tell you about one more fun book we've got coming up in the spring called Shabbat on Mars, and it's written by Jeff Ward, who is a rocket scientist, who is married to a rabbi, so he calls himself a Rebbetz's man, and he is amazing. And we've written the real questions and answers of, if you were really going to celebrate Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath on Mars, what would it be like? Mm-hmm. And then it's illustrated with amazingly fun and funny illustrations by Gila from this book, Oy Santa. So it's really fun, Magic School Bus style, and I don't know, there's more and more exciting books. I just keep on working on finding new ones to create, and I'm honored.
I just want to know, in your book, can you send Elon to Mars and leave him there? We are sending 3 wonderful families to Mars, and a space dog, and and Curiosity is of course the main character. But
in that
he can be called Elon, right? The dog.
We're having a lot of fun. So thank you, Guy. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm always love having our conversations. You've got so much going on, so many funny ideas. So much tongue in cheek. It's fun sharing in the booth with you, and it's so exciting to see such great authors doing so much. And all my kids are grown, my grandkids are grown, but if they weren't, I almost expecting my grandkids. They're almost at the point where almost ready for great-grandkids. When that happens, I'm buying some books.
Okay, well, I will say Mazel Tov to you on behalf of my Jewish Children's Publishing Company. Mazel Tov, and
thank you so much.
And thank you so much. I'm honored to be interviewed.
And thank you for watching Meet the Author. Come to meet all the AEN authors during the autumn season in Seattle and Portland, and please keep on reading.